It's the Andy Thompson Show on ESPN 97.7.
We own and operated paint store here in southern Utah since 1975. Bring it on, buddy. What do we got?
The Sport Hole.
Sports.
Skeeter Beaters on the Andy Thompson Show.
All right, your Skeeter Beater today is brought to you by Balance of Nature. BalanceofNature.com. Use promo code TOWNSQUARE to get a discount on your first order. Get all your fruits and veggies in a capsule with Balance of Nature at balanceofnature.com. What do we got, Larry?
Clark. You bet.
Caitlin Clark again?
All right, Sport Hole Skeeter Beater. Will Caitlin score 20 points tonight?
Yes. I'm excited for it. First of all, the Fever are in the playoffs, Larry. They haven't been to the playoffs in like 8 years, and Caitlin Clark has gotten them to the playoffs, even though they have a record barely over 500. They're like 6-1 since after the Olympics. She's been great. She's scoring a lot. She's passing a lot, getting the assists. Had that before the Olympics, the all-time assist single game record. So she's a big deal, and she's kind of lived up to the hype, even though I thought she'd have to score a lot more in her rookie season to really take the league by storm and make a lot more threes. But she's been the best guard passer, and she's going to win Rookie of the Year. Now, they might split it with Angel Reese if Angel gets Chicago into the playoffs, which, even though they have a horrible record, because there's so few teams in the WNBA, she still might be able to get them into the playoffs. So that would be great for the WNBA if both Angel and Caitlin in the playoffs with a chance to maybe even play each other if there's some upsets. But, yes, take it down to Skeeter with the beater. Take Caitlin. She's been scoring a bunch. She's scored over 20 like 4 of her last 5 games. So I'm going over, Larry.
Yes.
Let's go to Katie Rosen for our first hour look at the National News Desk. And by the way, we'll finally have Skeeter beaters that people care about starting tomorrow when the NFL starts. And Friday, we've got BYU Friday, we've got NFL Friday, as well as high school football. That's a cardinal sin, by the way, that the NFL and college football infringing on the sacred Friday Night Lights, which is supposed to be held for only high school. I blame Roger. I blame Roger and his manifest destiny to spread the NFL far and wide to Brazil or to Europe or wherever the heck else. Just play it on Sunday morning then, Raj. Just play it at 5 a.m. on Sunday like you normally do. Don't do it on Friday night. That's what they're doing. I'm not happy about it. And he can go to hell. Let's go to Katie Rosen for our first hour look at the National News Desk. Katie.
Thanks, guys. This show stinks from the Sport Hole National News Center on Bluff Street. I'm Katie Rosen. Sao Paulo, Brazil has beefed up its security for the NFL game between the Eagles and the Packers on Friday night. The fear is that some Brazilians could get upset when they show up to a football game, but it's American football and it's actually entertaining. Chiefs are Super Bowl betting favorites once again this season in Las Vegas. Get ready for another season full of Mrs. Mahomes. The Washington Commanders have suspended their VP of content for comments he made about players Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell. We didn't want people to know all that stuff, the commander said. Today's Sport Hole National News is brought to you by Lawrence's mom from the Sport Hole National News Center on Bluff Street. I'm Katie Rosen, ESPN 97.7.
Thank you, Katie. I wonder what the Brazil fans. I wonder, it's going to sell out and it's going to be a big deal and they're going to be thrilled it's there, but I wonder what the takeaway will be from fans who see their first NFL game live. And I'm talking like they've never seen an NFL game before, but everybody's seen an NFL game before. There's fans everywhere. It's the world sport behind soccer, right, Larry?
Yes.
But I guess my point is, can a country who has just had soccer and has had the best soccer in the world forever, like Brazil, could they convert? And could they say, you know what? This football where they're hitting each other and they're falling down only as a result of being hit hard as opposed to flopping is a much better sport. What have we been doing our whole lives? Like, is it possible to convert a lifetime soccer fan in Europe or South America or other places who have only known soccer. I don't think it is, but I do think you could maybe get them when they're young. And I think that's what Rodgers' grand plan is. Get these kids when they're young, and then they'll be able to say, look, I like what Mahomes is doing much more than I like what Mbappe is doing. It's a lot more fun to watch, right? Is that the plan?
Yes.
That game's Friday night. Thank you, Katie. Let's go back to you, Lawrence. What do you got?
The Sport Hole.
Sports.
2-minute drill.
1-0 delivery. Hammered down the line in right field, and it is fair and slides into third for an RBI triple.
Presented by Ideal Home and Auto Paint.
Touchdown! 27 yards. They make it look so easy.
All right, Larry, we got week 4 coming your way. We're already through the out-of-region play, and we're into the region. You blink your eyes, Larry, and your high school football career is over, and you live with regret for the rest of your life. So don't blink. What do you got, Sambo?
All right, Sport Hole, what are you thinking about week 4, week 1 of region play in high school football? Let's go.
Thank you, Sambo. Well, we've got, before we do that, I want to name our Findlay Subaru Game Breaker of the Week. And our Game Breaker award goes to a position group or a player who, in football, for example, we usually try to give it to a lineman because they don't get the credit they deserve. In basketball, sometimes we give it to a kind of a role player. Baseball, same thing. And we wanted to announce Findlay Subaru, Easton Webster from Crimson Cliffs. Crimson Cliffs went up and ran the ball all over Springville. And over 300 yards. I know McCord Christiansen had 240-ish yards on 35 carries. And a big part of that is the big hog mollies up front. Easton Webster wins our Game Breaker of the Week, brought to you by Findlay Subaru. He gets a $100 gift certificate to Dick's Sporting Goods. So congratulations to Easton Webster. It was tough because Desert Hills, Simona Foilatolo or somebody over there, also, they ran the ball like crazy over Centennial. It went to Crimson Cliffs. We had seen Springville. We didn't think it was possible to run the ball like that over Springville. And Crimson was able to do it. Congratulations to Easton Webster and really the whole Crimson Cliffs offensive line, because Springville, year in and year out, is one of the biggest teams in 5A. We see them every year come down and play Dixie. They've got the linemen. They're sending D1, 4 or 5 kids. Last year went D1. A few of them went to BYU. This year, they looked the same to me from what I saw week 1, how physical they were, their linebackers, their defensive linemen. They had one kid who was all over the field. He was their tight end and edge rusher, number 8. What was his name, Larry? Look it up.
Yes.
He was one of the best players, high school players I've seen this year, and Crimson Cliffs was able to run the ball a lot of it on them. So congratulations, Easton Webster. Thank you. And thank you to Findlay Subaru for our Game Breaker of the Week award. Let's go to Nolan Perry's lines in week 4 in these region games. Dixie favored by 13 against Hurricane, which I think is a fair line. Dixie has had a tough start to the season, playing Springville, playing Mountain Ridge, playing Park City, getting blown out in all 3 of those games. Now they've got Hurricane, who you probably have to go back a decade since the last time Dixie has lost a game to Hurricane, right, Larry? Did you end up looking that up?
No.
Can you please, when you have the time, look up when the last time Dixie lost to Hurricane was? And it's probably, I don't know, it's probably 10 years or more. Dixie's favored by 13. Hurricane coming off that big win against Hillcrest. A great performance against Moapa Valley on the road, and a competitive game against Mountain Crest. We'll have that game for you on ESPN 97.7 and streaming on CEC TV, YouTube. And we'll have it on sportsradio977.com for fans that want to watch it on the stream. I would say that Dixie is looking at this game like, holy cow, we've been through Murderer's Row. We haven't been able to throw the ball. We haven't been able to run the ball. We were dealing with all of these injuries. We get to start region play against Hurricane. We can go and beat them. And Hurricane's looking at it like, okay, we've shown that we've gotten better from one year to the next. We blew out Hillcrest. We have some playmakers. Now we want to prove it against Dixie. It's kind of like what college football teams are thinking after week one when they blow out an FCS team. It's like, okay, now we've got BYU's got SMU, or Utah's got Baylor, or Utah State's got USC. And it's like, okay, now people take your win against an FCS school with a grain of salt, kind of like a win against Hillcrest in the high school world. People take that with a grain of salt. Hurricane wants to show they're ready to compete in Region 9 against one of the best programs year in and year out in Region 9. That's the Dixie Flyers. Nolan Perry has that as a 13-point spread. We'll get Lawrence the Pigskin Picking Robots picking that game as well on Friday, right?
Yes.
All right, Desert Hills against Pineview. 26-point spread by Nolan Perry in favor of Desert Hills, who got the win last week against Centennial. Titan Mason ran for 260 and 4 touchdowns. He had, I want to say he had 3 games last year over 300 yards. And the strength of schedule for Desert Hills in their first couple games, Faith Lutheran, and then he got hurt. So he hasn't had the huge numbers yet, but it's coming. And it started last week in their win against Centennial. 26 points seems a little fat to me. I know Pineview's defense just gave up over 300 yards on the ground to Tooele. You look at week 1 against Manti, a really good passing team. They gave up a bunch of yards. So the defense of Pineview is the concern right now, I'm sure, for Panthers fans going into this game against Desert Hills, a team that wants to run it for 500 yards on you. So that's going to be a huge challenge for them, stopping the run against Desert Hills on this big offensive line that the Thunder have. But I think Pineview has shown with Quade Sorensen and Brock Harris and everybody else, Kyle Richardson, the running back, I've been really impressed with Levi Shaw. He did have a couple picks last week, but he's thrown for 400 yards a game. Like, it's back to being Pineview big number football on offense. So if they can score a little bit on Desert Hills and figure out some way to slow it down, I think 26 points might be a little much for the spread there. And I'm hoping that Pineview can go on the road and compete and make it a game against Desert Hills. Crimson, same spread against Cedar that Desert Hills has against Pineview. Crimson favored by 26 against Cedar. And it's kind of a similar situation where Cedar offensively has shown that they can score this year. And we talked with Coach Wayne Alopopo yesterday on the Coaches Show, and he said it's the Ty Hyatt effect. Instantly, you can tell they're doing some things differently schematically. Their offense looks better. And with Everett Kelling and Crew Giles, that's a pretty dang good combo, even though Giles was basically taken out of the game by Canyon View because they put a bunch of guys on him. And Cedar kind of had to use him as a decoy. We'll see if Crimson Cliffs does the same thing. That's a 26-point differential in that game predicted by Nolan Perry. And if Crimson Cliffs can go and bully Springville, they can bully just about anybody running the ball. And if they want to say, look, last year we had Steele Barban at quarterback, who was a 2-time region MVP. We wanted to throw the ball 30 times a game. This year, we've got McCord Christiansen, who's an all-stater. We want to run the ball with him 30-plus times a game and play smash mouth. They're going to win different ways this year, maybe in region, where they're running the ball for 250-plus as a team and throwing it for 150. You know, it might be the inverse a little bit of last year, and they've shown that they can do that, and they still have playmakers on the outside when they choose to throw it who make plays. So we'll be at that game as well. That game will be on Fox Sports Utah 101.9. Snow Canyon favorite against Centennial by 21 points. Snow Canyon looking for their first win this year. This will be on the road in Centennial. And I'm eager. I think Snow Canyon is probably just eager to get into region play. It has been a tough. If you go back, a game against Stansbury where they had the lead for most of that game, probably feel like they let that one get away. Probably feel like they could have won that game. Same with Manti, had a lead. Playing Cathedral, a big out-of-state school, going down by a couple of scores, and now they got Centennial, who actually battled pretty well with Desert Hills. It wasn't a complete blowout is what I'm trying to say. Now Snow Canyon's favored according to Nolan Perry. Hope Snow Canyon goes and gets a win on the road this Friday night. Thank you, Larry.
The Sport Hole.
Sports.
All right, we got the Polygraph press conference. We sent Lawrence the pigskin picking robot up to San Juan High School. And the coaches, we only got Coach Whittingham and Coach Satake, right?
Yes.
We'll usually try to get the Utah State head coach, Coach Lance Anderson, Coach Fitzgerald sometimes. And the idea is these coaches give their press conference after the games and their weekly pressers leading up to the next game. And when you put a lie detector thing on them and they have to just kind of let loose, some of the stuff is a little bit more telling. So that's what Lawrence was able to do, right, Larry?
Yes.
So let's do it. I think we've got Coach Whittingham first and then Coach Satake. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Let's go.
It's time for the Polygraph Presser.
Coach Whittingham, how do you feel about the game on Saturday?
Our culture is, whatever it takes to win, it doesn't matter. Some weeks it's going to be, more reliant on one phase than the other.
Remember, Coach, you're on the polygraph. Try again, please.
Look, you want honesty? I could have ran routes against that defense and had a $150 with a couple of tutties. Honestly, people are raving about Cam's performance, but dude would have had a harder time scoring at the Salt Lake County Fair. It's basically like, here's $1 million, FCS team. Just try not to get too much blood and guts all over our field. It was like that scene in Jurassic Park where they feed the raptor. Anyway, we're 1-0. Keithy played good, but seriously, who can really tell? We've got Baylor this week. They suck. Pound the Utes, -14 in the hook. Wow, so I'm surprised at Coach Witt's brazenness there about Baylor, because I think Baylor, Coach Aranda runs a good program, even though they've been down the last couple of years. They've got DeQuan Finn, the new quarterback from Toledo, right, Larry?
Yes. Put
up big numbers with the Rockets. So Whittingham likes the Utes -14.5 at home. And by the way, we're giving away those tickets right now. So text us Baylor, the word Baylor, to 435-900-3776 for a chance to win 2 tickets to Rice Eccles to watch the Utes and Baylor. You can listen to that game on ESPN 97.7. Text us right now, 435-900-3776, Baylor, for a chance to win tickets to the Utah-Baylor game this Saturday at Rice Eccles Stadium. And it couldn't have been a better tune-up game for the Utes, right? I mean, there's some questions at running back. Mekhi Bernard might not be the kind of workhorse back. He's kind of a scat third down back. You've got Stanley, who caught those 2 wheel routes for big yards. He's the fastest guy on the team. You've got Jalen Glover, but it's going to be totally by committee this year. And by the way, Jaquindon Jackson has looked awesome for Arkansas. It's kind of like seeing the transfer. What the heck is his name? Broughton, who's at TCU, who made a bunch of plays in week 1 for TCU. What the heck was his first name? Travis Broughton. It's like Travis Broughton or something, Larry.
Yes.
Both those guys left Utah and are actually performing pretty well. I'm not sure. And now with Keenan Johnson going out for the Utes for the rest of the year, it's like they could have used Broughton this year, right?
No.
But that was Coach Whittingham on the Polygraph Presser. Let's go to Coach Satake. You got him, Larry?
Yes.
BYU, of course. Big win in week 1 against Southern Illinois University. they've got SMU in Dallas on Friday night, which you can hear on 890 KSUB. Go ahead, Larry.
It's time for the Polygraph Presser.
Coach Sitake, how do you feel about the game on Saturday?
They're all well-coached teams, and then with tons of talent.
Remember, Coach, you're on the polygraph. Try again, please.
What's up, haters? Retzlaff made you all look like fools. Wake up the echoes. Bosco, McMahon, Young, Detmer, Retzlaff. Our defense was flying around out there. The Salukis had nowhere to go. They sucked. They were worse than our scout team. We're going to kill Utah this year and may even make the playoff. I finally have a competent offensive line coach to get those fatsos off the Xbox and into the weight room. SMU sucks. Take the Cougars and 11.5 points to the bank. So Coach Sitake, they're very confident about Retzlaff and very pleased. I'm sure that was the biggest stressor for him going into this season was questions about the quarterback situation and going in with Retzlaff and the controversy with Bohannon. And, oh, man, are we really going to go with Retzlaff? He didn't play very well last year in 4 Big 12 games. And then Retzlaff comes out, balled out, Larry, right? 3 touchdowns, 330 yards. 20 of 30, throwing the ball down the field, getting it to a bunch of different guys. I don't know how many Cougars caught passes in that game, but it was like 9, right? So I was impressed, and it sounds like Coach Sitake was impressed. He also likes BYU with the 11.5 against SMU. Great job, Larry. I know it's hard to go up to San Juan midweek. The coaches don't like to travel, but they do it. And put on that lie detector machine, the polygraph machine, right?
Yes.
And you ask them questions. But we appreciate you doing it. All right. Thank you, Lawrence.
The Sport Hole.
Sports.
Wentz floats it down the sideline. It's caught. It's Nakua. It's a touchdown.
Sport Hole, what are your NFL predictions for this season?
Okay. How chalky am I going to be, Larry? Super Bowl champs. Chiefs. MVP. Mahomes. Offensive Player of the Year. Travis Kelce. Defensive Player of the Year. Nick Bolton. No, just kidding. Micah Parsons from Dallas. Now, let me say Offensive Player of the Year. I was semi-kidding about Kelce. So let's go with Jamar Chase instead. Comeback for him, having a big year with Burrow and all that stuff. Kind of reclaiming his spot as the top receiver in the NFL, up there with Jefferson. So I'll go Jamar Chase, Offensive Player of the Year. I'll go Parsons, Defensive Player of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Marvin F. Harrison, the Jr. With Kyler and the boys, they're going to be bad, right? But Maserati Marv, you could argue Caleb Williams, who's got a bunch of guys to throw to in Chicago. He's got Eberfluss saying, hey, we went and got you all this. We went and got you Keenan Allen. We've got a run game for you. We've got a decent offensive line. Let's go throw the ball around a little bit. We've got Cole Kmet at tight end. So I'm excited for the Bears this year to actually have an offense and actually have a quarterback for the first time since Sid, or what the heck is his name? Sid Luckman, right?
Yes.
Defensive Rookie of the Year. No idea. What about Laiatu Latu for the chart for Harbaugh from UCLA? You like him?
Yes.
Comeback Player of the Year. Joe Burrow. Cool Joe. Coach of the Year. Matt Eberfluss. with the Bears, the NFC North is interesting because the Lions needed to go to the Super Bowl last year. That's what my opinion is. I think they'll be good and competitive this year. You got Jordan Love, who's the richest man in football, and the Packers, who went to the playoffs and won a playoff game last year. And you got the Vikings, with who are always battling to win 9 games, regardless of who their quarterback is. Sammy Darnold might have a renaissance, or what is it called? His career might be resuscitated in a good franchise with a good play caller in Minnesota. So it's a competitive division, but I think the Bears have gone all in, and even though it's hard to cheer for Caleb Williams, I think they're going to have a good year. And we're going to go Coach of the Year to Eberflus. Will the Cowboys make the playoffs? Heck no. Thank you.
The Sport Hole.
Sports.
Very good defense, very athletic. They know what they're doing. They're really good at their system. Excellent team. I mean, it's a big step up from what we've been dealing with, what we had to deal with last week, and we got a big challenge on our hands.
Sport Hole. What chance do you give BYU against SMU?
I give BYU a dang good chance, Larry. If they can run the ball, I was listening to Connor Pay, who's kind of the leader of the offensive line, the center position. I was listening to an interview with him, and he is a smart, just a thoughtful college football player. He does he's on Locked on Cougars with our guy, Jake Hatch, up there. And I feel like I have this weird confidence in BYU's run game this year that they haven't had over the last couple of years, even with more talented offensive lines. I feel like with LJ Martin and I know LJ's dealt with some injuries, but he was fine on Saturday. With Hinckley Rapati, with Consider Me Miles Davis, who's kind of the guy you throw swing passes to, but also pretty good, pretty fast. I feel like you just need to go in with the mentality that you're going to push SMU around. You're BYU, for heaven's sakes. They're SMU. You're 5-0 all time against these schmucks. Just because they have an ACC thing on their jersey now, they're considered Power 4? No. They're SMU. Vegas has you as 11.5-point dogs in this game. Are you kidding me? You got Retzlaff. He's winging the ball around. He's running around outside the pocket. He knows the system now. That's the difference. You look at Retzlaff against Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and Iowa State last year and West Virginia. He doesn't know what the heck's going on. He doesn't know the system. He takes the snap and then he's running around like a chicken. Now he knows the system. He knows where to go with the ball. He knows and don't just say it's because he was playing the Salukis, Larry. Okay?
Yes.
So I think you go in with a balanced attack, but with the offensive, with TJ Woods as your new offensive coordinator saying, we're going to run it down your throats. We're going to run zone read. We're going to let Jake take off with it, too. We're going to let him run 8-9 times a game on the zone read stuff. We're going to give LJ the ball 15 times. We'll give Hinckley the ball 10 times. And if it's third and 2, we're running the ball, right? Like they did against the Salukis. Or 4th down, we're running the ball. Huh? So I think BYU can go in there. Now, I have had, over the last several years, rose-colored goggles when it comes to BYU football because I have PTSD from my childhood where BYU would always come back. If you had a lead on BYU, they'd always come back and beat you. And I might be projecting that onto this new era of BYU football, but I think I make fun of the FCS games, but I think you can tell something from these FCS games. You go back to last year where they looked horrible against Sam Houston, and you go a year later, and everything's clicking against SIU. They're throwing the ball well. They're running the ball well. Their defense is sacking the quarterback. So I think BYU fans who are looking at a number in Vegas at 4.5 wins this year, right now, it's like, man, I think you talk to most BYU fans, and they won't say this, but in the back of their heads, they're thinking, we can go beat SMU. They barely beat Nevada in Reno, and Nevada was the more physical team in that game. I mean, Nevada was the smash mouth team in that game. And Preston Stone didn't look good except for one throw in the fourth quarter that won him the game. So I think BYU fans think they can go beat SMU, and then they got Wyoming. That's 3 wins going into Big 12 play. Then you need 2 wins in the Big 12 to get your over mark, and then you need 3 if you want to go bowling. So, yes, people do get fooled by FCS games. But I think apples to apples, you can look year over year and say, hey, we look so much better this year in our FCS game. Okay, Larry. Is that good enough for you?
Yes.
Thank you.
The Sport Hole.
Sports.
What do we got?
Sport Hall, what did you make of the comments the Commanders VP made?
It's a VP. It's like a content guy, right? So
yes.
The Washington Commanders, one of their VP of content, whatever the heck that means, went on a Tinder, swiped right, went on a date with the girl he swiped right on, and it turned out she was an undercover reporter. And it seems like this happens quite a bit. Just a couple weeks ago, I saw a story about somebody who was secretly recording another person. Was it a political thing, Larry? How long ago was that? But it was a reporter who baited this guy on Tinder to go on a date, and it was asking him about, was it a corporation or politics? Anyway, in this thing, it was a reporter who baited this guy who is a VP for the Commanders and got him to say all this horrible crap about the Commanders, about the league, how homophobic everybody is, how dumb the players are, how Roger Goodell is a puppet of Jerry Jones, and Jerry Jones is anti all this stuff. So, Sambo, do you want to read a little excerpt of that? It's the lead story on ESPN right now.
On the video, NTN also said some players are dumb as hell and said some who were smart don't stay that way after getting hit in the head too many times. He also said those who get their heads knocked around a few times are more susceptible to conspiracy theories.
So, you can go read the full article. Anytime you get somebody on secret camera, you get, what they really think, right? And this is somebody who's been with the Commanders for 4 years. He's been in the NFL. And it's like a nothing burger to me that this guy is saying, players are dumb or whatever, or they're, or whatever he said about Jerry Jones. And it won't surprise anybody what he says. So, the Commanders have fined him or suspended him, right? And I'm sure he'll be gone.
Yes.
And Katie, she reported on that too, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Larry.
Letter to the Sport Hole. You can write to the Sport Hole at 93776.
Letter to the Sport Hole is brought to you by our good friends at Flynn Companies, Flynn Roofing. They've helped build southern Utah. Commercial buildings. You look around at Utah Tech, SUU. A lot of those buildings were built by Flynn Companies, proud booster of local sports. This is from Jody. Dear Sport Hole, did you see that the national championship trophy is in Utah? Why the heck would it come here? Ba, 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 ba. All the best, Jody. Well, great question. I just saw this on KSL Sports. This is from KSL. College football royalty will be in the Beehive State as the College Football National Championship Trophy traverses through Utah. The trophy will be on display for college football fanatics to view as it travels through Utah on Wednesday, September 4th. Trophy's first stop will be Kent's Market in Plain City, Utah. What? That's where I'm. That's where my whole family's from. Is Plain City, Utah. Handlers will then transport the Ultimate College Football Prize to Macy's in Salt Lake City, Utah, from 4 to 6 p.m. No team from Utah has won a Division I national championship in the college football playoff era. The last in-state team to win a title was the 1984 BYU Cougars, of course. The 2024 and 25 seasons, the 4 quarterfinal games, the 2 semifinal games, blah, 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 blah. I mean, we know all that. The national championship games are scheduled for January 20th, 2025 in Atlanta and January 19th, 2026 in Miami. Quote, on behalf of the management committee and the board of managers, this is thrilling. It's been a long process, but we are pleased that more teams and more students will have the opportunity to compete for the national championship. New era of college football is about to begin. I look forward to it. So, yeah, the trophy's in Utah. Traveling around. It's in Plain City, Utah, or it was in Plain City, and right now it's at Macy's in Salt Lake. That's great. Go get your picture taken with it. All of you northern Utah-ites. One of the great trophies in sports, right? Nothing too unique or particular about it. The most important trophy in college sports is obviously the Heisman Trophy. But it's cool that the Natty is going through the state of Utah. Okay, thank you, Larry.
Happy, happy, happy.
Happy birthday to Mike Piazza. That's right. The great Mike Piazza, who was born this day in 1968, September 4th, 1968, American Baseball Hall of Fame catcher, 12-time All-Star, 10-time Silver Slugger, Dodger, Met, born in Norristown, Pennsylvania, and avoided any of the steroid stuff. All right, we'll be back right after this on the Andy Thompson Show with Rustin Burnside.